Hello, welcome to Highlights. My name is Jim Strawn, host of the television program Highlights from the Heart of Our Community, is brought to you through a collaboration between Jim Strawn and Company, the Media Center, and HD Media, and our newest sponsor, The Banker's Life. There's no life like The Banker's Life. We're glad you're with us today. If you're a regular viewer of our program, and we certainly hope that you are, you know how much we love to focus on those grassroots organizations, charitable organizations, great businesses, organizations, people doing great work, phenomenal work, to make our great state of West Virginia, our Kanawha Valley, and our city of Charleston a much better place to live, learn, work, and to play. And after yesterday's big announcement at the Charleston Convention Center, these folks that I'm getting ready to talk to are doing all of that and much, much more. Yesterday we announced the development of a new Capital Sports Center. We're going to talk about that with the commissioner from Kanawha County, Commissioner Ben Salango. We also have representative from the City Hall, City of Charleston, Mayor Goodwin's Chief of Staff of the City of Charleston, Matt Sutton. So lots of really good insight, lots of good information. Very exciting announcement yesterday as we taped this show about this sports complex, this sports center coming to Charleston, West Virginia, and the Kanawha Valley, and what it'll mean to our region and our community economically, and just as far as quality of life is concerned as well. So sit back, relax, take it all in. I turn to my right and I welcome into the program Commissioner Salango. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
It's good to see you. Good to see you, Ben. Matt Sutton's with us. Matt?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I watch all the time. I think it's the first time I've been on this.
I think this might be the first time on the Highlights, but
great.
you are the Chief of Staff for Mayor Goodwin's administration for the City of Charleston. We're glad you're here. Ben, as we taped this show today, yesterday at the Charleston Convention Center at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, hundreds of us from Charleston, West Virginia and beyond gathered, and we made a huge announcement. I'll let you announce it right here if somebody's living under a rock. Talk about what we announced yesterday.
You know, what an exciting day.
Very.
This is something that we've been working on for quite some time. We announced a 254,000 square foot indoor complex. So we're going to have an aquatic center with a 50-meter Olympic-sized pool, 10 lanes. We're going to have 6 basketball courts, 12 volleyball courts, 8 pickleball courts, a wrestling room, or as Matt like to call it, the combat room.
Combat room, right? I heard that.
An indoor running track, elevated above the courts. We're going to have a state-of-the-art fitness center. I mean, this is a wonderful addition to Charleston. This is a wonderful addition to Kanawha County and the entire state.
You mentioned it was many years in the making. I want folks to understand we didn't wake up Monday morning and go, hey, let's have an announcement on Wednesday, right?
That's right.
Talk about the work that goes into making an announcement like this, putting all the pieces together. It is a huge puzzle with the funding. It's a huge puzzle with the collaboration and the partners. So talk about maybe even the last 6, 7, even 8 years maybe we started talking about this.
You know, the first time that I started talking about sports tourism was in 2014. My youngest was then 7 years old, and Tara and I were traveling all over the eastern United States for soccer tournaments. And so I ran into the commissioner of tourism for the state of West Virginia, and she and I had a conversation. I said, can you believe that we're at age 7, age 8, age 9, these kids are traveling everywhere? And she said, that's sports tourism. It's the largest growing segment in that industry. And of course, the commissioner of tourism at that time was Amy Goodwin. And
she happens to be the mayor of City of Charleston now, right? Is that correct?
She is. And so the mayor and I have continued to talk about developing something somewhere. And, you know, we've been working with ZMM, you know, outstanding architects on where can we do it, what's the right spot to do it, what do we need in it, how big can it be? And that's why we settled on the primary location, which is the Macy's building at the Charleston Town Center, and also one of the parking
right
garages.
There on Lee Street in downtown Charleston, and is that Clendenin Street, Clendenin and Lee? There's a shot of the site right now as it looks. That's the old Macy's spot there on Lee Street in Charleston, the town center mall. So Matt Sutton, Chief of Staff with Mayor Goodwin, you're working closely with the mayor. You've known about this project. You probably the first week she took administration and took over the helm, she probably said, hey, let's work on this.
Well, it was actually before the first week.
Okay.
So when she was still mayor-elect at the time and asked me if I would come to work with her, I said, yeah, what are we going to do? And she said, well, we're going to invest in the west side, which we've done. We've spent over $10 million of our ARPA funding in the west side. We're going to fix the riverfront, which we've got working on the raise grant that Senator Manchin and Senator Capito helped us bid. We're going to bring back the regatta, which we did.
Check that one off, right?
And then and she said, we're going to build an indoor sports facility. And I looked at her and I go, in 4 years? And she said, yep, we're going to do it. Of course, we had COVID in the middle of it, but we talked about this the day her and I met the day after she won the mayor's race, and we've been working on it ever since, and working on it very closely with Commissioner Salango. And I think that is the key in all of this, is that, to your point, we just didn't wake up one day and do it. And what we know is that in 2014, when the study that the commissioner mentioned was put to use, it was $130 million in development in our county between Shawnee, and that same study was used to upgrade the convention center as well, under leadership of Mayor Jones and his vision of what that was going to be. Well, in 2022, the city of Charleston, through the approval of City Council, provided funding to the Charleston CVB to do a new study about sports tourism. And they said what we really knew: you're doing really great outside. You have the best location in the entire East Coast to have this type of facility, but you've got to have an indoor facility that can host these large tournaments. And we said, okay, now we're ready. And that's when the commissioner and the mayor and others went to work with ZMM to create the idea of the Capitol Sports Center. Again, it's just an idea. We're going to learn a lot along the way. But no, this has been 4 years, at least in my time, in the making, and even long before that.
And Ben, you talked about firsthand with your family traveling. Your sons played soccer, and then you put your signature on your role as a commissioner here in Kanawha County with the Shawnee Sports Complex. So you understand, you've seen it now firsthand. If you build it, they might come, and they have come. Talk about the impact of Shawnee, and then we'll segue into what this sports center can mean indoors here.
The very first email I sent out as a Kanawha County Commissioner, the morning after my appointment, it was about 6:30 in the morning, I sent an email asking for the very study that Matt's talking about from 2014. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see what the recommendations were, and we hit the ground running. We knew that if we built a premier sports facility, with state-of-the-art lighting and state-of-the-art turf, and if we ran it the right way, that we could host some of the largest soccer tournaments in the nation. And we've been doing that. We started off in 2017. We cut the ribbon in June of 2018. And since that time, we've generated well in excess of $100 million in economic impact. That is including during the time when, the entire world was shut down. So, we've done, I think we've proven the concept that people want to travel. They travel with their kids. They spend their money locally when they come in. And that's the whole concept behind the Capitol Sports Complex as well.
Matt, some of the naysayers, you and I were talking off air about, do we have enough restaurants? Do we have enough hotels? And we're talking, that's a pretty nice problem to have if people stay even outside of Kanawha County, but they come to Charleston and spend money in Kanawha County. They stay in Barbersville and they come to Charleston and spend money. That's a good problem. The rising tide, it'll lift us all up. Is that right?
It is. We want the problem. We want a problem where we're out of parking spaces in the city of Charleston. You can't get in a restaurant. You can't get in a hotel because it is all. Listen, West Virginia, we know this about ourselves. We're in it together. This isn't Charleston competing against Huntington or us competing against Morgantown. And I think the prime example is the work the Governor Justice has done around tourism in our state and spent millions and millions to invest, because we know if we can get people to West Virginia, we can get them to come back. And not only get them to come back, but sometimes if they come here, especially in today's world with remote workers, they're going to find a place to live. We want those problems. What's good for Charleston is great for Huntington. It's great for South Charleston. It's great for Morgantown and Wheeling and Martinsburg. We have to be in this together, and that's the most important thing. We know from the regatta, listen, when you have that many people in town, all restaurants are going to be successful. All bars are going to be. All retail shops are going to do it.
In case somebody misses, say the number again. Was it 31 million economic impact for the regatta?
5 days, $31 million in economic impact from the Charleston Star.
We were hoping for 5, 10, maybe 12. I don't know, but we got 31.
Yeah,
Mayor was ecstatic.
Yeah,
we're all ecstatic.
But it shows it works, right? And that's the thing too that I think that I want to get across to people is that this just isn't an idea. This stuff works, right? When the Commissioner Salango built Shawnee, they knew it would work, and it has worked. When we invested in the regatta, we knew it would work, and it did work. When we invested in Slack Plaza, in a city center in Slack Plaza, and redid that and spent $4 million, there's been $15 million in development in that area since then.
That's right.
This stuff works, and I think Senator Manchin said it best yesterday at the end of his speech. He said, you can spend money all day long. That doesn't do it. When you invest money, that's how you set up generations.
That was actually a great line, wasn't it, Commissioner? When
it was.
Senator Manchin said, we can all spend. Spending is spending. You just spend it and it's gone.
He's been very supportive of the project.
And I believe it was Mayor Goodwin said, I'll do this all day long. I'll spend $1. You give me 8 back, I'll do that all day long. Is that the return on investment we think with this sports tourism for youth?
Yeah, for every dollar you put in, you get $8
Yeah.
out. And, the governor's been doing a great job at that, not just with sports tourism, but other types of tourism that he's working on. Chelsea Ruby's been fantastic. And, what we've seen with Shawnee is that if you build it and if you run it right, then the entire community is going to benefit. The people will have a place to play during the year, and then we can run these large tournaments on the weekends.
Let's talk about some of the economic impact. Mayor Goodwin was talking yesterday about there used to be a $15 billion industry nationwide for AAU and youth sports and travel teams and coming and swimming and running and wrestling and whatever else and playing soccer. That has swelled. What's the number now, Ben?
I think it's around 40 million now.
40 billion, she
40
said.
billion.
40 billion with a B.
And so when you compare that number to other industry, for instance, you take that number compared to the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's youth sports tourism it has more of an impact than the NFL.
That caught me off guard yesterday. You said that. That's a bigger industry than the NFL.
Can you imagine? And but we see it. We're in it. The parents who are running all over the place, and of course the mayor is a hockey mom. She's seen it too. Once you're in it, and then you understand that when you attend one of these tournaments, you're staying 20, 30, 40 minutes away from the venue. When we host the large tournaments with our partners in Barbersville, there are people that have to stay in Flatwoods because every hotel is booked. The last large tournament we had 46 hotels sold out.
I love
46.
I love following you on social media. When we first had our very first tournament here after the Johnny opened up, you put pictures up of every hotel from Huntington to Beckley, and you would full,
Yeah.
full. I'm like, full. There wasn't one. There was no beds left.
That's right. So
which is what we want, as Matt's saying.
I got on an app and I tried to find a hotel room, and every hotel that came up was sold out. And so I wanted people to see that, because we can talk about it when they see it. It's a completely different matter.
But I think too, the thing about the investment into sports tourism is also doing it smart, right? So it's not just you'll build it and they will come in this world. As the commissioner said, you got to run it right, and you got to be laser focused. And that's why in the Huddle Up report, and a lot of what the Capital Sports Center looks at is investing in youth female sports, because what we know is that for every youth female athlete that travels, 3.5 adults travel with them. Well, that's 2 hotel rooms for 2 nights, and that's more people eating in restaurants. So when we go out and target those sports like volleyball and cheerleading and soccer and softball, those are the sports that we know bring money in our community. And being able to have those while still having a facility that can house large AAU basketball tournaments, and having events that will still have the youth boys sports, but it's about being smart. And then we're lucky enough in Charleston to have a CVB that gets it. I mean, they've worked with groups all across the country, and frankly with the state, who know it's about investing and about being smart about how we invest and who we go at to get some of these tournaments to come to town. Because what we want people coming into our town to help to support a facility that will help our local kids here, so they can have a place to play and train. But we're generating the revenue from people who are coming out of the area.
Man, I'm gonna stick with you. Let's talk about some of the players and behind the scenes and logistics. Everybody talks about the town center mall. What are we going to do with the mall? It needs to be lifted up. It needs to be this. We all have our ideas. Talk about the players involved with this whole collaboration. I know it's the largest decision or the largest announcement with the collaboration between Kanawha County Commission and the City of Charleston, but City of Charleston and Commission didn't own where Macy's was. Talk about the players. That Cura, I do believe. Talk about Cura and what they play and how this whole thing has come together and all the collaborating partners to go, yep, we're all on the same page.
It's a lot. I don't know that we've got enough time to talk about all the players, but I think we'll start up at the top, right? As the commissioner said, and with Senator Manchin standing there yesterday, we've got support from Senator Manchin. The mayor met with Senator Capito in her office earlier this week. We have her support as well. Mike Graney from the State Development Office was at the press conference yesterday. State Tourism was there. So you're looking at from a government perspective, federal, state, county, and city all working together to achieve one goal. We are going to have to do, just like anything, you're going to have to do site development and acquisition and everything like that. And we'll work with Cura and the bondholders and the parking garages to get that and Macy's taken care of. But again, this is about everybody who's involved, from local business owners to our top United States senators understanding the importance of investing in our community. And I think that's really what it's going to take in order to be successful. And again, the number one question, even when I go to family dinners, the number one question I get asked is, what are we going to do about the mall?
Right.
Well, the mall is a privately owned business. Government's role is to invest in areas that can prop up private businesses. Not to tell private business what to do, but invest in areas around them. Well, we're getting ready to spend $80 million right beside the Charleston Town Center. That is the investment needed in order to save that facility. It's going to be up to a private business to determine what goes inside it, but we're giving them everything they need from a government perspective to say, we're investing in our community, now you invest in our community. And again, we've seen it. It's on smaller scales. Back to City Center. $4 million investment leads to $15 million investments. We know it works. Shawnee spurred restaurant development and hotel development. So when you think about the area around the mall with the development of Slack Plaza, the bid district that came in, the business improvement district that Lewis Payne started, the work the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation is doing, Fife Street Brewing, and now in the newspaper, the opening up of Short Story Brewing right beside it, and then the investment of the Capitol Sports Center, not to mention the record-setting revenue that the Coliseum and Convention Center is generating every month. That since OVG 360 has taken over the facility to manage it and to book it, this sets up the next 20 years of life in the city of Charleston and in the entire Kanawha County.
Matt mentioned the price, Ben. The price tag is about $80 million. This is an $80 million investment for this indoor sports center here, the Capitol Sports Center, right? Is that right? Capitol Sports Center. And it's right next door to the Charleston Convention Center, where we just come off the heels of spending $120 million. So we're looking at a couple $100 million investment right there. So the convention center and this indoor sports center, I mean, it's going to collaborate and it's going to feed off of each other. And so you're talking about, I think you mentioned it yesterday, we can have 72 volleyball teams on the court at one time, one across the street from each other.
We could have 72 volleyball courts or 72 teams at one time and also run a swim competition at the same time. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And when you can bring that many teams, that many people in, it's going to generate, just tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars.
Let's take a look at we have a couple of pictures. Like I said, we saw one earlier of what the site looks like right now. So we'll take a look at those pictures, and then we'll just continue to run. Well, there's the, what do we call it, the corkscrew, the parking garage. That's on
the loopy-loop.
That's on Lee Street right there. And so that's a present day, current day picture of the parking garage, and right down the street from there is Macy's, where the new indoor sports center is going to go. Right there, that's the other side of the parking garage, and right there to the right of the picture is where Macy's is now. So we're going to show the ZMM artist rendition, which is a video, and we're kind of talk through that. So there's the same view, and what we're going to do right there, I'll let you guys talk through that, but that's the parking garage, Matt, right?
This is the parking garage, but most importantly about this is the gateway to the city of Charleston.
Right. Oh,
when people come into Charleston, this is what they see. You come in two ways, Lee Street, Virginia Street, right?
That's it.
And so you come in there, and we got to get rid of sort of the darkness that gets in there and start.
That little bridge going across is a pedestrian bridge.
It's a pedestrian bridge so that we can continue to connect the garages and also connect the hotels. But this is happening all across the country.
You'll see the pickleball courts, basketball courts, volleyball courts going in where the garage used to be. We took off the top 3 layers, right?
But we're also, think about it, we're using existing assets and using existing land and property. So we're not building brand new. We're building on top, but we have this here in order to create it.
And that's where Macy's used to be, right there. There's Clendenin Street and Lee. And then that's where the Olympic-sized pool is going to go in. I believe it's 10 lanes, I heard yesterday. Is that correct?
10 lanes, 50 meters.
Yeah. Look how nice that looks, guys. Right across from the new Charleston Convention Center. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, maybe talk a little bit more about the partners involved here and funding, and maybe a timeline. And I know you're going to have some public meetings as well,
Absolutely.
Right, Ben? So we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by the Chief of Staff of the City of Charleston, Matt Sutton, along with one of our commissioners of the Kanawha County Commission, Commissioner Ben Salango, and we'll be right back. And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank our supporters of the television program. Highlights from the Heart of Our Community is brought to you through a collaboration between Jim Strawn and Company, the Media Center, and HD Media. And our newest sponsor, special thanks to Banker's Life. There's no life like the Banker's Life For over 140 years, Bankers Life has provided financial security to their clients and policyholders. During that same time, Bankers Life has helped change the lives of many of their associates personally, professionally, and financially. Questions? Do you have questions regarding Medicare and Social Security? Give them a call, 304-757-4134. Or if you're interested in a free review with a licensed agent or looking for a new career in the financial industry, contact Dennis Harmison, dennis.harmison, Harmison, at bankerslife.com. There's no life like the banker's life. And we do welcome you back. We're having a great conversation with Matt Sutton. He is the Chief of Staff, City of Charleston, West Virginia, along with our Commissioner of Kanawha County, one of our Commissioners of Kanawha County Commission, Commissioner Ben Salango. Ben, we've had you on the Highlight Show before. I remember talking about the Shawnee Sports Complex, and I remember you telling me you sketched out the blueprint or the plan for the complex on a cocktail napkin.
That's exactly right.
So that's that. You didn't do this sports center like that, did you?
I did not.
And look how successful the Shawnee was.
Well, that's kind of that actually happened. I had some stakeholders at Adelphia, and sketched it out on a napkin. And of course, it doesn't look anything now like it looked then. So thankfully, ZMM came in and actually gave us a good plan on it.
At the announcement you were talking about, this is the beginning phase. The announcement was phase 1. Now we're going to have some other phases, and these phases, second phases, third phases, will include public hearings and letting people come and voice and ask questions and what ifs and how are we and what. This is a plan. It's not the final plan, right? So we're going to have some public hearings. Talk about how you learned to listen as you did Shawnee.
You know, when I came up with the concept of Shawnee, I had in my mind what I wanted, thinking everyone wanted
You knew what we needed
to
do in your head, didn't you?
Right, yeah. So, and I've candidly admitted this before, you know, one of the things that that helped Shawnee a lot was having public meetings. You know, we've had a lot of people come in and say, hey, you know, these fields aren't lined for football, and we can play football there. Hey, what about the basketball courts? I specifically remember a group of kids that came in and said, you know, Commissioner, you know, we love soccer, we don't play it, but what about these basketball courts that have been, you know, empty for a decade? And so I told him, I said, you know what, that's a great idea, and you'll have the first game. So we actually cut the ribbon on the basketball side 2 months before, and those little boys that came in played the first game on those courts. So, you know, it's important to listen to the people. We may think we know what the people want, but until you get out there and hear them, you don't know.
But I think, too, listening to the youth as well, because I think, you know, we had early in our administration, we had a youth town hall, and said to the youth in town, you talk. We're done talking. You all talk. Tell us what you want. And that's how the skate park came to be. Right. And that's where the idea for the skate park came from. And then
tell folks where that is if they're not
so the skate park
it.
is, you know, right beside Magic Island. It's right under the interstate.
Right.
It came in last year, and it's been. I mean, it's constantly packed.
My wife says there's people there all
and during the regatta,
time.
we had professional BMX bikers that came over and participated, and it was because we listened. And I think, you know, the same thing's true when the mayor was talking to a group of students from Capitol High and saying, well, what do you all want? What can we build? And they said, well, we'd just like to we'd like to have a job. Well, that's how we restarted the Mayor's Summer Youth Jobs Program. And then this year we had 60 kids in it. So listening to people, especially listening to our youth, because that's, I think, how we're going to get it, and what you mentioned with Shawnee, of, you know, as adults, sometimes we have a lot of ideas and we think we know, but when we listen to the kids that are actually out there who are playing and training, that's when we're going to get a lot of our best ideas.
After we listen, Ben, and we get the plans are becoming more concise and a little clearer and a little more fine, a little more detailed, and we start. We don't have a construction team yet, but we do have our ZMM engineers and architects. What kind of timeline are we looking at? When can we start maybe hoping for, hey, I can't wait to go down to the center and play some ball?
So I would go over today and start. I would love to go over with a hammer and a shovel and get to work, but it's going to take 6 to 9 months for the construction drawings, and then probably 2 years or so after that for construction.
We can wait. We've waited a long time.
Yeah, we've waited.
It'll go quick.
You know, I want it to develop as quickly as possible. But you know, there are some hurdles we need to overcome, including getting those construction documents.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's key about that is, while we're drawing it and we're getting the construction documents and we're building it, we have to be selling it at the exact same time.
Yeah.
When that door opens, we need to have 2 years worth of stuff booked into that facility. That's how we really make this a return on our investment. Is we don't sit back and wait for it to open and then go to people and go, hey, we're here. We go to people.
That's really what we did with Shawnee too, right? I mean, we were up and running within a month.
Well,
you had it. Well, I think
that point,
if I remember, I think we lined some tournaments up and we weren't ready yet. We got to get this thing ready.
Jim, I had a national tournament booked before we had a shovel in the ground.
I remember.
I presented I went to USU Soccer and I said, here's the concept. This is what we're going to do. And they said, can you have it done by July? This was in December of 17, and I said, yes, we'll have it done by July. So, it's not a joke. I would go out there and sit and watch this construction, and I worked every day with the construction team. I worked with ZMM every day to make sure that we were on the right track, and we held that tournament in the summer of 18.
One of the producers of the show works with the Media Center. I'll go ahead and throw his name out there, Coach Dan Shreve.
Yeah.
Coach Dan is a volleyball coach up at our local high school, George Washington High School, so he's a volleyball advocate. He's excited about all these courts going in, and he travels the nation, Matt. We were talking off air, and he travels Columbus and Tennessee and down to Nashville and all points in between. Takes his girls, and they play volleyball tournaments. His daughter was a great volleyball player at WVU. Talk about what we were just talking about off air. People love to come to a volleyball center and just park it and play. No buses, there's no shuttles. You can just let the team go. They walk over there, they go over there. They're in conference room B, they're in conference room C, they're across the street. They're all right there. How nice is that?
So I think that's the key. There are other locations that ZMM has helped lay out as well, one in Canal City and one in North Charleston. But the biggest appeal of downtown is that it is that idea that we get to sell these tournaments to tell people your families get to drive to Charleston, park their car, and don't get back in their car until they leave, right? Because you're going to park at one of our hotels, you're going to walk over and you're going to play.
Everything's there.
You're going to walk downtown and you're going to eat. You're going to walk downtown, you're going to shop, and you're going to walk back to your hotel. It's everything. Even being able to sell the cryo freeze place on Hale Street, right? CryoFix. To be able to say, we've got a training center right there whenever you need it. That park and play is so important because we're going to have our ability to sell Charleston. That probably is going to be the easy part because people know we're right on the interstates. We're connected, better location. We're 6.5, 7 hours from the vast majority of the population in this country. But you can have a lot of different things if you come here. One, you can park and play. The other is you can come to Charleston and play, and in 45 minutes you can be in a national park. Yeah. And you could be at the best whitewater rafting in the country, the best rock climbing in the country. If it's the wintertime and you want to go skiing, you can go skiing. You can do all this within an hour and a half or 2 hours of Charleston. There's no other place in the country that can say that. So then we come to say to a national volleyball tournament, hey, guess what? We've got 32 volleyball courts, 36 volleyball courts. You can play 72 teams at a time. That's 15 kids per side. And oh, by the way, this is all that your families get to do while they're here. It's a no-brainer, and we're going to be able to compete with every place in the country to bring in these type of tournaments because there's nobody who can offer what we can offer in the Kanawha Valley. There's just not. I understand we're all biased here because we love our community. Well, but let's just be honest about it. That's the truth.
This is the theme that I'm hearing. We've had Nicole on from Charleston Area Alliance. We've had Terrell Ellis on from Advantage Valley. We're talking bigger than a 1 block or 2 blocks or the city of Charleston. We're talking about West Virginia. We're talking about the tri-state area. We're talking about an economic impact where when the water comes up, all the ships come up with it. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking with Matt and we're talking with Ben. One more thing I want to stay with you, Matt. People are asking, now, and Ben, you can chime in too. We're having these AAU teams, we're having travel teams, we're having swim meets, we're having high schools, middle schools, youth, they're all coming to Charleston. What if you reside in Charleston and you want to go over to the sports center, if you want to go and run, if you want to go and swim? It's for us as well, right?
Absolutely, and I'll let Commissioner Salango talk about the membership, but that's what I was saying earlier, right? We bring in all of these teams to help fund a facility that is really for our local community, because one of the things we hear all the time, and actually what I would think would be one of the most important things about this is that our youth don't have anywhere to train like competitors they have when they go to the next level. If you have a Division I athlete or Division II athlete or Division III athlete, when you get to that level, you're competing against kids and with kids who have been training in facilities like this their entire life. So when we're turfing the fields in the city of Charleston, we need it because the kids who play baseball or softball need to be able to play on turf because they're going to go play on turf at the next level. When we're talking about having a facility like this, the biggest benefit to me is it gives a place for our local kids the opportunity to train in a world-class facility so that they can then take themselves to the next level if they choose to do so. When we talk about having swim meets, we don't want our kids pounding a bus and going to Charlotte just to be able to compete. And the problem is when they get to Charlotte, they have never competed in a pool like the one they're going to see down there. So if we have it, they can train here, still go down there, compete, and dominate like our athletes do, but it gives them a better facility. We have kids now, and of course Dan, I've known Dan a long time in the volleyball world, he knows this, they have to go to other counties to be able to train just for volleyball. We got to put that right here in our area so the kids in Kanawha Valley and Putnam County and Barboursville area can come and train in a world-class facility so that they can have that. And I'll let the commissioner talk about sort of the everyday membership. But that's a huge part of this that really is the core of it, is making sure that our kids have a place where they can train to where that's going to put them on the same level as everybody else that they compete against.
Matt's making some great points. I'm going to let you talk about membership and local use, and I'm going to let you talk about that as let's take a look at the inside. We looked
Absolutely.
at the outside. We'll take a look at the inside. You can kind of talk about the inside and talk about how we're going to use that locally as
So
well.
we have a 30-foot rock climbing wall we just passed, and I think
Yeah.
there's another view of it later in the video. But so the idea is, we come up with the funding to build the facility. Now we've got to operate it. And the last thing I want to do is go back to taxpayers and say, hey, now we need a couple $1 million a year to operate it.
There's our fitness center.
So yeah, the fitness center will be world-class. The aquatic center, world-class. What we want, monthly members. So to
Okay.
come in to work out, to play pickleball, to use the wrestling room, to swim. And that membership is actually going to fund the operating expense.
Okay.
That is a very important part of this because, I've studied aquatic centers all over North America, and it's going to cost around $1.5, $1.6 million a year just to operate the pool. And that's if there are no leaks. And then the rest of the facility is going to be, $600,000, $700,000 a year.
How nice that looks, though, gang.
Oh, it's absolutely
it's
stunning.
Top notch, state of the art.
So we will use the monthly memberships to fund the operating expense. Now, what you won't see in this facility are restaurants. You won't see any, shopping. I want people to be able to go into the mall to do that. You want to go to the food court. You want to go to Outback. You want to, shop.
Here's our indoor turf. Not a huge soccer field, but enough to play a little 7-on-7 maybe,
120 by 60,
120
and we can host.
There's the
youth
combat
tournaments.
room, Matt. Wrestling room. I was a wrestler, so I get that. That's great to have. So look at this keeps sprawling and sprawling. What'd you say,
254,000 square feet.
254,000 square feet. We're putting right now, there's a price tag on it of about an $80 million development. We're going to have some public hearings, learn a little bit more. There's the indoor running track, which is elevated above the rest of the center. And just there's some, I think we have about 8 pickleball courts.
One of the things that I think is that we haven't really dug into, and we're going to dig into this as we get into the public, comments, is really understanding the flexibility of what's been designed. So yes, you see a basketball court, but basketball court can be volleyball courts, can be wrestling mats, can be pickleball courts. So it's about creating flexibility. You have a soccer turf. You can also throw up, some rails and some nets that have batting cages in places where people can come and train for baseball, or you throw things down for lacrosse. Creating a facility that has rooms that are still flexible, and that's the biggest thing, is so that we have places again where our local kids can train, but also that we have the flexibility. I mean, we keep talking about between the Coliseum Convention Center and this complex about how many courts we can have. We have this flexibility, as the commissioner said. We can be hosting 3 or 4 or 5 youth sports events in Kanawha County at the exact same time. And the economic impact of that, I can't even wrap my head around it.
Right.
I mean, because that's really what it's going to be. And again, I think that's the really great thing. And we talked about it earlier about what the governor sees this model, as does the commissioner, as does the mayor. When you invest in tourism, the nice part about it is that you bring people to town to help fund efforts so that the local folks can take advantage of, right? So it's not on the backs of people here locally, but you bring people in to help spur that economic growth that are from other areas that then we get to reap the benefits of here.
Matt and Ben, we have a stereotype here in Appalachia. If you've not been ever to visit us, or if you've not been to West Virginia, and now you're coming, and you're going to leave, you're going to be like, are you kidding me? That place is stunningly, majestically beautiful, and those people are the salt of the earth. We're coming back.
We have the best people. And the funny story about when we developed Shawnee, as Tara and I were traveling all over the country, the parents kept saying, why can't we have something like this back home? Why can't we have something like this in West Virginia? And so after we opened the facility, the very first year, and we had, there was parents from Pittsburgh and their son, they were taking him out after a soccer match, and the mom looked at the dad and said, why can't we have something like this in Pittsburgh? And I remember Commission President Carper was standing there and he looked at me and he said, good job.
I think you've made it. I think, yeah.
To your point, if you ask the Charleston CVB, they'll tell you we have an 80% revisitation rate.
80%. Okay, I just read the number.
So we know as West Virginians, we all know it anecdotally, and we have the stats to back it up. The hardest thing to do is to get somebody to step foot here, because once they step foot here, they're coming back. And as we said earlier too, when we think about the new world of remote workers, when you come to Charleston and you spend a weekend and you have the ability to live wherever you want to live, why wouldn't you want to live in this area where you're 45 minutes from a national park, you're 50 minutes from Wycombe, you got a state forest that's right in your backyard, and you have all these amenities. And not to mention, I mean, we could talk forever on this, but the one thing that I think that this also supports, you know this because you've worked on it, in the last 3 or 4 years, the boom in downtown housing we've had in the city of Charleston, this only adds to that, right?
Absolutely.
Because now we have this going back of what they're doing over 900 Lee, what they did at the Atlas Building.
Stunning what they're doing over there.
It's going to be tremendous, and that's the thing too. When we say it's going to take two or 3 years to put together, we need that time because that's when our investment comes in and starts building new hotels, starts building new lofts to live downtown, builds new restaurants, builds new shopping environments, and gets them all ready. Those things don't happen overnight. We want all that here when this thing opens up.
I hear you. I love what you're saying. I live it every day. I run a little Strawn Chalet Airbnb. We just had a guest here from Arizona. Jumped on a flight, drove around all over West Virginia, went down to the national park, went to Thurman, went down to Adventures on the Gorge, stayed with us for a few nights, just spending his money from Arizona. In his 20s, going, this place is unbelievable. I can't wait to come back. So we're doing it. We're living it. You guys are a big part of the impact here. You guys are a big part of putting these things together. I appreciate you. Matt, do you have a parting shot for the audience?
I think the last thing I'll say, I think I said before, but I'll go back to what Senator Manchin said. This is about investing so that generations to come can enjoy our community. This isn't spending dollars. This is investing in our community, and that's why this is so important, because it's not just about spending money to create a sports facility. It's about investing in our community, in our youth, in our local businesses, because this sets up the future of our county and our state for a decade to come so that we can continue to grow and prosper. This is it. This is how we invest, and this is how we make things
Another thing
better.
that United States Senator Joe Manchin, who was part of the announcement, he said yesterday, it resonated with me. He said, forget about the size of our market. Don't take that into account. What we're developing, what we're standing in right now, the Charleston Convention Center, and what we're going to have, it's going to be one of the best in the nation. It's going to be easily the best in the East, and people are going to come. Forget about the size of our market. This is going to be stunningly beautiful, no matter what size we are.
That's exactly right. And, we can bring in folks from larger cities, and now we're actually competing with those same cities and winning. We're going to be able to win not just at Shawnee, but also the new Capitol Sports Center. We'll beat teams out from, or other facilities from Miami. We'll beat out Louisville. We'll beat out Cincinnati, and we'll be able to bring those tournaments right here in our backyard.
Commissioner, I appreciate you. I applaud what you're doing.
Thank you,
You're
sir.
doing a great
Appreciate
job. Matt, you're great. Keep up the great work at City Hall. And that is all the time we have on this edition of Highlights. As always, brought to you by Jim Strawn and Company, the Media Center, HD Media, and our newest sponsor, Banker's Life. There's no life like the Banker's Life. We'll see you next time right here on Highlights. Take care now.